I'm Julian Minnesone. Cam Ward and the Titans won the game, but his attitude after the game has come into question. Is it winning or is it whining? We'll talk about it.
I'm Brad Hopkins, and it took 14 weeks, but the Titans seem to have played a complete game. Maybe.
I'm Tyler Rowland, and for once this season, we got to give some credit to the coaching staff.
Tighten up. It's the Titans Squad. Everything Tennessee Titans, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Music City, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Squad up. The Titans Squad Show starts now.
And welcome to the Titans Squad Show. I'm your host, Julian Minnesone, joined by my friends, Locked On Titans host Tyler Rowland and two-time Pro Bowler Brad Hopkins. Guys, we haven't said it many times this year, but the Titans won a game on Sunday, and so we're going to talk about it. A jam-packed show, how they're going to respond to victory and maybe turn one win into two in a row. Also, a lot has been made about Cam Ward and his post-game demeanor, what we think about that when it comes to the rookie quarterback, and of course, we'll play our favorite segment, Tighten Up and Tighten Down. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. And I wanted to start with some positivity because the Titans did win a football game on Sunday. We'll go tighten up and tighten down what we were tightened up about and positive when it comes to the team, and tighten down and maybe what needs to improve going into this weekend against the San Francisco 49ers. B-Hop, we'll start with you. What is your tighten up this week?
Well, I teased it at the very beginning, Julian, Tyler, about the Titans playing a complete game. That's exactly what they did. On both sides of the football, on special teams, they showed up, they made plays, they were extremely consistent. They came out running the football. Obviously, Tony Pollard's 162 yards on the game was a microcosm of how much they took control of the line of scrimmage. And albeit with a juggernaut of a sacker on the other side of the football, which they definitely took into consideration in game planning. So wish they'd have started it earlier. I mean, they could have played like that a long time ago, especially with as much adversity as they were facing. The road, a really good pass rusher that was only 4 sacks away from setting a record, that kind of deal. They were consistent. They made good decisions. So at the end of the day, the things that seemed to plague them for most of the season weren't an issue. Almost.
Well, listen, before I give my tighten up, I got to give a quick tighten down. And the tighten down is for me. Brad, you get a tighten up because last week we talked and you said they got to run the football. They have to find a way no matter what it takes. They got to stay committed to it. And I said, Brad, they can't. It's a skill issue. They would if they could, but they literally cannot do it. And guess what they did? They ran the ball. So I'll take a tighten down for doubting them. For doubting them, you know what I mean? Give a tighten up to Brad for saying, hey, that's the plan no matter what. And I'll give a tighten up to the coaching staff. I think that all of the heat has been on the coaching staff, and rightfully so. I'm not going to act like they shouldn't have gotten some of the criticisms that they have, but their game plan in this game was fantastic. The way that they attacked Myles Garrett's aggressiveness, let him come upfield. I don't know if you guys noticed it. You probably did while you were watching the game, but the Titans were running 2 tight end sets. And they were having Ali Udoh, the backup offensive tackle, be a jumbo tight end. And he wasn't lined up next to the offensive tackle like the extra offensive lineman normally is. He was the outside tight end. So it would go offensive tackle, Gunnar Helm, and then Ali Udoh. And what that allowed on Tony Pollard's 65-yard touchdown, and they ran the play like 4 times. It allowed Ali Udoh to go one-on-one with the defensive end instead of Gunnar Helm. Or if you ran a traditional 2 tight end set, that would be Gunnar Helm and David Martin Robinson, or, like I said, God forbid, Chigakonkwo out there against Myles Garrett. That didn't go very well at any point in time. So, to make that small tweak in the game plan and have Ali Udoh be not just in the lineup, but on the outside so that he can go one-on-one with Myles Garrett, and then it allows Gunnar Helm to slide up free access to a linebacker. You get those pullers coming out behind. They ran that. They let Myles Garrett fly upfield when they were in shotgun and just ran a delayed inside zone, just a little halfback delay to let Myles Garrett run up the field, and they just pushed him past. On Tony Pollard's second touchdown, Dan Moore was hurt, and Ali Udoh was in, and Udoh just I mean, I could have just like let Myles Garrett run up the field for 5 yards, and they just let Tony Pollard go right behind him. So the way that they designed the run game and then in the pass game with the little things that they did, we'll talk more about Cam Ward later in the pass game, but I think the game plan was really excellent from the offensive side of the ball. Mike McCoy, Bo Hardegree, those guys, and they really had a pared down game plan that was complementary football. It was old school. It wasn't the best for Cam Ward, and we'll talk about that, but for all the harsh criticism I've personally given to the coaching staff, I'm going to give them credit this week for having their best game plan. And they outsmarted Jim Schwartz and one of the best defenses in the NFL. They just outsmarted them, and they haven't been able to do that so far this year. So that was impressive.
You know, all of the talk going into that game was Myles Garrett. Is he going to break the sack record against this Titans offensive line? But I think we forgot that Jeffery Simmons could be as much of a game wrecker as well on the other side. And knowing Jeff and how competitive he is, you knew going in he wanted to outduel Myles Garrett. And he did that. A sack and a half. He had 7 tackles for a defensive lineman. That's great. Had 3 QB hits. A pass deflection as well, where he got his big mid up there and knocked one to the ground. And not just that, he was the anchor of a defense that forced 2 turnovers. And ultimately, if you add the block punt in there too, it led to 17 Titans points. And so he talked about that going into this week, how he needed to put Cam Ward in that offense, who had been struggling, in position to score and in high leverage situations. And he certainly was the anchor of that defense that did that. What is your guys' Titan down this week?
Well, Julian, can I just, before we go to Titan down, I just want to add to what you're saying. They get the turnovers. They get the block punt. The very first play of the game, Chim DK returns 141 yards and gets it nearly to the 50. The Browns kick it out of the back of the end zone the rest of the time. So whereas earlier this year, the Titans, people are doing cool kickoffs and they're getting it at the 20, the 22, the 25. They got it at the 35 like clockwork in this game. Every time, because they were so scared of Chim DK. First play, takes 141 yards. They're like, I'm done. We're kicking it in the end zone. Take it at the 35. Who cares? Whatever, we're done. We're not dealing with this guy. Every single element of the Titans, we said complimentary football at the top. And just as we've gone through our Titan ups and we go through Jeffery Simmons making plays on defense, now the turnovers, now the special teams impact with the block punt, putting points on the board, which mattered. They won by 2. Special teams gave them 3. You know what I mean? Like, that truly was a full team win, and that's the biggest Titan up, is they finally were able to put it all together. Before we go negative and say our Titan downs, which there were some, I just wanted to point out like how everything that we said, the whole package comes together, and that's a complete win, and that's why they won. Yeah,
I'll add just a little bit more of a Titan up, because there is room for positivity this week, right?
We're 8 minutes in, we won. I'm doing more, you know what I mean? Let's go. I got another Titan up.
I just love the way Cam was not indecisive. I know I said that, his decision-making was pretty good earlier, or at least theirs was. We didn't see him back there patting the ball. We didn't see him looking confused. We didn't see him like dealing with coverage and running around in the pocket. He knew where he was going. His back foot would hit and that ball would come out. Not only was that good decision-making on his part, but it's also good for those guys that he was throwing the ball to be available. They knew what the game plan was going in. They knew they didn't have all day to be mucking around back there because of Myles Garrett, breathing down their neck potentially. But they also stayed out of negative down and distances for the most part, especially in the first half, when they were able to cement a lead and pretty much take control of the game. It honestly looked like the Browns were the Titans that we've been watching for the last 10 weeks or whatever else, and the Titans were somebody else. And I'll give my first Titan down. I'm going to take a page out of your book, Tyler. It was me. I remember sarcastically looking at my wife on my way over to my mom's to watch the game and saying, yeah, Myles Garrett might break that sack record in the first quarter. Because just what they were dealing with, because I knew that, they were already talking about, his Japanese writing on his hands, King of the Monsters and Godzilla and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, sweet Jesus, if this guy comes out here, does any of that, we're in trouble, right? So I sarcastically was going along with the narrative that he was going to break that sack record. So bad on me. But I will say a Titans negative was, do you remember, this is a microcosm. I know you remember this, Tyler. Do you remember when Cedric Gray picked up the block field goal?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And then
he's running down the sideline. He's about to put some points on the board, maybe at that point, much needed points. And he gassed out. He had to take the sideline, right? He was exhausted. And it seemed like that exhaustion in the fourth quarter was taking over their thinking, their decision making, because they were quietly letting the Titans or letting the Browns back into that game. You know what I mean? So just making silly mistakes. I mean, a couple of face mask penalties. You know, when you get a face mask, it's because you're not in position to make a tackle and you're doing something that, you know, it's just like, So there's a couple of Jihad Ward had
roughing the passer.
That then gave them and extended the drive. So it just seemed like the things that we talked about them not doing for 3/4 of the game, they started doing late, and then the Browns started taking advantage of that and started making Shedeur Sanders look like he was Bo Nix or somebody, you know what I mean, or Drake May. So I was thinking, oh my God, these guys are going to play this hard all the entire game. So I'm going to say this. That was my beginning, was that the Titans played a complete game for about 55 minutes. You know what I mean? So that's my Titan down, is that they didn't finish the game, but they got a win, and that's all that matters. But they didn't have to make it so damn dramatic.
Well, if Quinshon Judkins didn't literally forget the play, forget what he was supposed to pitch that ball backwards.
What did you guys make of that? That was a disaster.
What is there to make of it? I mean, we've all, you know, that's like walking in the kitchen and forgetting why you went. Like, it's too late. You're already there. You already forgot. You know, like
I feel so bad because you can see the light clicked on after he ran by the reverse man. He's like, and
he's like, should I throw? Yeah, just honestly, a rookie mistake.
That was, listen, big mistake. Are you kidding me? That cost them the game, honestly.
It was open. It was open.
Right. If they would have scored, that ties the game up. You know what I mean? We don't know what happens in the latter moments of that ball game. So him making that mistake was great for us. But good Lord. I know Kevin Stefanski's got to be like, he just wants to shake him a little bit like.
Yeah. And he just took the blame afterwards. He's like, no, it was my fault. Bad play call. Yeah. You know, they're like, you take Shedeur Sanders off the field. He's like, look, I like the play call. It was just my mistake, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like, he just really was overt about it. But you're right, Brad. They did let go of the rope a little bit. You know, they let go of the rope. And I'll say this. I think it's clear why. This is a team without competitive stamina. We've seen it all year long that they eventually do let go of the rope. We're just used to seeing it in the third quarter, you know, and then it's like this team hasn't had to stay mentally locked in a close game that they were winning all season. You know, they came back in Arizona, so they were locked in at the end because they were coming back from, they haven't been ahead and had to close out a game all year long. You know, that hasn't happened. So they probably weren't mentally focused all the way through and let go of the rope because they haven't had to do it. They don't have any stamina in that regard. They haven't trained for that. But my Titan down, because I want to bring it up as an interesting conversation, and this just won't be me monologuing. I want to ask you guys the draft pick. So now the Titans are going to be in a tough. It looks like that Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana, he'd probably be a sought-after guy who they could trade back. My personal take is I think you got to take the win and be happy about the win because this team needs it. But did you have any thought at all when you lost, like they might not get that number one pick now and they might need it?
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, Tyler, because from a player's perspective, we don't play the game to lose.
Right.
It's not only a bad look, it's a bad feel. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And how do I do that? Do I give up a sack? Do I not make a tackle? Do I, how do I, in my head, think about losing a game? So it's not even in my purview of things that I'm thinking about while I'm playing the game. Now, let me put my, the future and all this other stuff, right?
Right.
It sucks to be in a position where you're going to pick first in a draft in back-to-back years. That's a terrible situation, but here we are. It's a reality, right? But I'm thinking, golly, what could we do with that first pick? If this first pick you feel doesn't yield a guy, one person that automatically could change the fortunes of your team or at least give you a shot, you at least can then trade back and get draft picks for the future that are going to cement your situation. So I understand. That's all I'm going to say. I understand where you're thinking about, man, that first pick sure would be nice, but how the hell we secure it? I can't think that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand the conundrum. Let's just say that.
Tyler, I think you brought up a good point on your social media yesterday. They don't need better picks. They need to pick better.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Follow him at Locked On Titans. But you also, if you're the Eagles and the Chiefs, you didn't become good and win Super Bowls by picking first every single year either.
Yeah.
And I think for a young team that really needs to learn how to win, I think it would be an absolute failure of this first rookie class in Cam Ward's first season if he went through the entire year and won one game.
No, that would, they need to feel it a little bit. Well, think about who stepped up. Like, I hate to be like, Pro Football Focus has its downfalls because it's people giving their opinion on players play to play. It's just a more in-depth process than watching the game on TV and giving your opinion on it. It's just more in depth than that. And it deserves the credit that it does. And teams use it and it's valuable. It's one piece of the puzzle. But then I go back and I watch the tape, and I watched the game like twice yesterday. And the players who graded out the best, the players who look the best out there, are the players that you want to hear, that do matter going forward. Latham and Skoronski were the Titans' best offensive linemen. Corey Levin had a pretty good showing. He might be a good, cheap value. Maybe we need to just finally, let Harry Potter out of the closet and let him shine, baby. Come on, just let Corey Levin be the starter at this point. Brad Hopkins, not a big Harry Potter fan. This is an age gap.
I'm trying to make the connection.
I got it,
right,
Tyler.
fair
I
enough.
got it.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, all I'm saying is, you look at the offensive line, it's Skoronski, it's Latham, having very good games. You look at Alec Iomanor, Chim Dike, catching touchdown passes. Then you go to defense. Jeffery Simmons looks absolutely dominant. Like, that's going to matter next year. He's going to help them win games next year playing like that. Tavondre Sweat had a pretty good game and held up pretty well against the Browns rushing attack when the Titans haven't been a good run defense all year long. Cedric Gray flying all over the place. Kevin Winston was the Titans' highest graded player. He got like an A-level grade at an 85, and the way that they use him, Kevin Winston is playing big nickel in the slot, flying in, hitting the quarterback, blitzing. He's on the line of scrimmage like a freaking defensive end, doing stunts and flying around and looping back to pull the quarterback inside. He's playing back deep safety and single high, deep free safety, and then he's a box safety. He's a half field safety running cover 4 match and cover 2 deep half, and it's just like, he's 6'2", long arms. Did you see him? Okay, he got hit on the screen pass to Judkins where Judkins took it 58 yards down the sideline. He got hit, and it opened up the lane. Bad on you, rookie. You got to do better than that against an O-lineman. Make a great play, and one day he will. But after Xavier Woods, Combat Boots Woods, got flown past down the sideline by Judkins, and it's not even like Judkins is Usain Bolt out here. Like, he's a good young running back, but he's not a speedster or something like that. Winston hawked him down, and I got tagged in something that he ran like 71 yards straight to catch Quinshon Judkins, and he saved a touchdown.
Yeah.
And they got a field goal. So, no, I think they got it to Njoku for the touchdown, but just an incredible play, and his size, his length, his speed, his versatility to do everything. Watching Kevin Winston, Marcus Harris, Jeffery Simmons, Cedric Gray, Tavondre Sweat, these are guys that will matter. So, yeah, they want to feel a win, and them playing well, which is what they actually need to get better, is their players to get better, not these guys who we don't even know if they're on the team yet. They need the players they have to play better. They did. And the ones that mattered played the best going forward. So I think you can't be mad at the win because most of the most important players played good. Yeah. And that's why you won. And that's why I said I was okay with wins going down the stretch, because it means that the important players who will be here next year and will be important next year played well, because that's all that's out there right now.
We saw Chirpy Jeff Sunday. You know what I mean? He was I remember at one point Shadura was trying to because Jeff was getting in his ear a little bit, so you don't do that unless you feel that you've got momentum, like you feel confident in what you're doing. And they were out there flying around making plays on the defensive side of the ball. Special teams showed up, getting turnover, just doing all the things that really give a team a chance to win, especially on the road. You don't think Browns fans were just starving for a W? They've only won 3 times all year. So they were supporting their team, and they're thinking this is the weekend that we can do it because this team's only won 1 time. The Titans put all that in the rear view and said, hey, look, we're going to go out and we're going to play our game plan. We will not deviate from that, and we're going to play consistent. So I just loved just the way that they competed. That's the thing that stands out to me the most. They weren't out there like deer in the headlights, looking around and confused and, letting the defense dictate the pace and stuff like that. We saw anytime a dude can rush for over 150 yards, you very rarely are going to lose that game. And they made the attempts too. What did he carry the ball, Tyler? Like 26 times?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So they made sure that he was involved in the game plan from the very beginning. So I like that. I like the fact that they had a game plan. They put it together. They kept Cam Ward out of bad situations, and that's what really helped them. Their decision making as far as dealing with penalties was good early on. They started, like we said, going down the stretch a little bit, making some boneheaded stuff. But at the end of the day, they didn't shoot themselves in the foot so much that they lost the game.
And you mentioned Cam Ward, B-Hop. We're going to talk about Cam Ward here on the other side of the break down his performance as well as his post-game demeanor, which is making the rounds of the headlines in Nashville this week. We'll talk about it next on the Titan Squad Show. All right, NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. This upcoming weekend, Titans and Niners, the over-under is 44.5. Titans just came off scoring 31 points. Maybe you want to put a little action down on that. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, fellas, wanted to talk about Cam Ward's performance, and in particular, his post-game comments after a win. A lot has been made about it in the fact that maybe he wasn't as satisfied as a rookie QB would be in his second career win. The debate going on right now is, was it kind of diva behavior, or is he just being realistic in his high standards he has for himself, given it wasn't necessarily his best day, though the Titans got the win? What did you make of his post-game demeanor on Sunday?
Tyler?
I think it's a massive nothing burger. And if anything, I am with Cam Ward. And I have two examples, both NFL winners, okay? Number one, Mike Tomlin. All right, what does Mike Tomlin say? The standard is the standard. The standard is the standard. And just because we won a game doesn't mean that we justify bad habits or bad execution no. We say, all right, we won, and we did enough well to win, but that wasn't good enough. We are striving to play our best football every single week. So I don't want Cam Ward to go up there and be like, we didn't play very well and I didn't play very well overall, but we won and we're a bad team, so I should be happy. No. And then my second example is Joe Burrow. Did you guys see the Hard Knocks thing with Joe Burrow when they beat the Titans last year? Or maybe it was the quarterback show or whatever all these, shows are now. And he's on the sideline. He's, we blank and suck. We blank and they beat the Titans 31-13 or 31-17, something like that. And Zach Taylor's like, come on, man, we got to win. And he's like, no, that was terrible. We played terrible. And he's like pouting on the bench mad because Joe Burrow knows, I want to win a championship and this is not good enough. We did not play. I don't care we won by 20. The team that we are trying to be and we want to be, that's not good enough. So I'm glad that Cam Ward hasn't lowered his expectations and happiness level to, hey, we got our second win of the year. And even though we played terrible, or I played terrible, the offense, they ran the ball, but the defense set them up to get most of their points. The offense did not play that great throughout most of it, especially the passing offense. They were able to run the football and just execute when the defense gave them opportunities, and they deserve credit for that. But I can't blame Cam Ward for not being satisfied with the way that the offense played. If we want the standard to be raised in Tennessee and we want the football standard, we can't just be like, hey, just be happy because you guys are bad and you got one. No. We need to play better even if we won. I love that attitude, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you 100%, Tyler. I actually love it. I love his response because it shows that he wants to be better. It shows that he had a mission going in. He had a mission going into the game, and for him, his mission wasn't accomplished. He wants to hit all the throws. He doesn't want to just win by 2. He wants to win convincingly, and ultimately, that is a sign of a winner. There's a special coming out on Cam Ward. What is it? The zero
on Tubi.
It's Zero Star. Zero
Star
is what it's called.
That's what it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
think of how much he's had to basically gamble on himself. The fact that he didn't quit, even though he thought about quitting. It's that mental focus.
Yes.
It's all of those
Yes.
things that he feels about himself to accomplish his goals and his dreams of being, the best version of Cam Ward, which will ultimately affect the best version of the Titans, right? So at the end of the day, they won the ball game, and that's great. But there's so much of that tape that they can learn from. And I guarantee you there were some things that he was disappointed in the team and in himself, because they didn't play a perfect game. They just played well enough to win. So I understand what he was saying, because at the end of the day, fellas, there are some games that you should have lost that you won, and there are some games that you should have won that you lost. And, it's just, that's the weird way about football and how that oblong shaped thing bounces, right? Well, that's what Cam Ward is saying. He's saying, hey, look, I need to be better myself. That way I can help this team be better consistently. And even though we're celebrating a win today, there's so much more that we can continue to do to get better and save this season. Because at the end of the day, fellas, it's only their second win. Yeah. And while we're supporting you, while we're celebrating that, they've only won twice for a reason.
Do you guys remember on my wall back here is a Kobe Bryant picture? He's my favorite athlete. He's also Cam Ward's favorite athlete. Yeah. Yes. And his post-game demeanor reminded me of Kobe's famous post-game press conference after they won a game in the finals, where he looked upset. He was not satisfied. And the reporter said, hey, you can enjoy this win. Come on. And he said, well, what's there to be happy about? Is the job finished? The job's not finished. And that's exactly what it reminded me when it comes to Cam Ward's demeanor, when he wants to be great and continuing to improve. It almost, I don't want to directly correlate it to his "we suck" or his ASS comments earlier this year, but I like that kind of stuff because whatever the standard was after wins, or however you acted after wins for this team over the last couple of years, hasn't been working because you haven't really done much of it. So I think from a culture setter standpoint, something needs to change. And I think Cam Ward is kind of the catalyst for that right now.
That's 100% what they need. And man, I would tell you, so many dots connecting, with Cam Ward and Kobe Bryant and the mentality of it. Like when you are, and we talked about 0-star and mentioned that, when you are a 0-star, when you aren't somebody with the pedigree, with the opportunities, and it's not like the 5-star people don't earn that, don't deserve opportunities and this and that. It's that, people who do deserve opportunities also don't always get them. Not everyone who deserves it gets it, but it's not to say that other people don't deserve it. But the fact is, when you climb from a 0-star and you're playing quarterback in a wing T offense that only runs the ball, and you think that you have a real chance, and you want to go from Incarnate Word to Washington State to Miami, and you want to make this transition, when you want to go from the gutter to somewhere, you cannot have a good enough mindset. You have to have, I want it all. Step on the throat. That is not enough perfection. That is what it requires to come from the gutter to get to the top. Like, you can't just be normal. You're not going to get there doing it that way. So Cam Ward doesn't have that mindset. It comes from the Mamba mentality, of course, which I think resonates with people who actually care about it and know about it. And at the same time, the Titans are an allegory for that. The Titans are in the gutter. The Titans are a 0-star NFL franchise. If this was college football and they gave the star rating instead of the overall ratings on the video game, the Titans are a 0-star franchise right now. Back-to-back #1 overall picks, potentially. We know where they're at. Just the prestige of the franchise and the conversation around the NFL and the ecosystem. They're a 0-star team. If we are going to get out of that, we're not going to throw parades and pop bottles for beating the Browns. We're not. When we don't play well and we let go of the rope, like Brad pointed out earlier, when we don't finish the game, when we run the ball 5 straight times in the fourth quarter for 2 punts and just let the Browns walk back in it instead of stepping on their throat, instead of handling it, they could have had even more points. They left, when they got that punt block, they turned it into 3. You turn it into 7, it's not even close. Like they could have played way better. So I'm happy about the win and players that played well, but there's no way that I'm going to be like, oh, Cam's being a diva, because he says this is not better. And quite frankly, you're right, Julian. We need that from Cam Ward to shake this team out of where they're at right now. We need somebody to be brutally honest and say, no, process over result. This wasn't good enough. It fires me up, quite honestly.
Yeah. Well, I will say this also, and I said this at the gym when I always talk to my gym buddies when I get there, and we always break down the game. Most of the time, I've been shaking my head when they walk up to me. But they're excited. They're excited to clamor about it yesterday. And I did have to admit, I said, Shedeur Sanders is a ball player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He didn't do everything perfect, just like Cam didn't do everything perfect, but they were actually having the head-to-head. You know, when you're showing all the conversation, they showed the tape between the two of them, this and that, and they showed the pictures of them in college together, you know, after a game, Washington State and Colorado and all this other stuff. And there were a couple of times in that game where I saw Shedeur just put the ball in on, like, what did Mark Slair say? He put the ball only where his receiver could catch it. I mean, that's and he did that like on the Njoku touchdown. I mean, that was blanketed coverage, and you know, just on the move was able to do some things. You know, I think the dude even ran for a first down, which is, I always thought he's not his daddy's son when he running the damn football. This guy, he's an old man out there running the football, but he at least he made some plays, and you know, 4 touchdowns, 365 yards, what it was. That's nothing. You know, that's a winning performance by a guy. You know what I mean? They just didn't win the ball game. So if Cam was actually looking at, you know, his counterpart on the other side of the field and saying, how did this 5th rounder play conversely to me as the first pick of the draft play, he's probably saying, man, I wish I could have had those kind of numbers or at least played better. Because in the head-to-head, it didn't look like that he was the better of the 2 quarterbacks.
But this is where the point comes in of, like, you know, Cam be happier, because part of that discrepancy in stats is the game. You know, like the Titans were up by multiple touchdowns. They were running the football. They ran the football for 180 yards. Brad, you know how many times the Titans had a true drop back pass in this game? Like just drop back, regular, not a rollout, not a designed rollout, not play action, you know, not a screen pass, not a bootleg, you know, nothing like, just 11 times. 11. On 66 snaps on offense, just 11. So 1/6 of the plays did they do like a normal pass. So Cam Ward missed like 2 or 3 of those normal passes where people were open. He could have hit him and he didn't. And Van Jefferson dropped one of the most beautiful throws we'll see Cam Ward throw all year, fading back on 3rd and 8 up the middle. And if we're being honest, I think that, you know, 60%, 70% of the starting wide receivers in the NFL probably catch that and take it to the house because they're behind. Like, that's a catch, and I'm behind both guys, and I'm running to the end zone the next 20 yards to score. And then Cam Ward's day looks totally different, and the discrepancy isn't so big. And then Shedeur Sanders is trying to come back down below. So I'm not trying to, you know, put Shedeur down. What were the Browns doing? He was practicing on the side field as the 4th-string quarterback behind Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco and Dylan Gabriel. Like, what malpractice from that organization? What are they doing? Your best quarterback and your best hope to get lucky and turn this thing around as a 5th-round pick is sitting right there, and you're treating him like a JV scrub. Like, what an insane decision by the Browns for it to take this long. Just that on its own is nuts. But I feel like the conversation about Shedeur and Cam is tainted because you're just looking at the numbers. And if it was Cam Ward down by 2 scores in the 3rd quarter and Shedeur was up, he probably would have 170 yards because they're running the ball with Quinshawn to salt it out. And Cam Ward would probably have good garbage time stats because he had to come back and the defense was playing prevent. And we've seen this before. It's just garbage time stats. Shedeur played well, and he deserves credit, and he should have been playing a long time ago. But the discrepancy in the stats that everyone's freaking out about, it was so obvious that was going to be a thing before the game was ever played. So I'm just like, I like Cam's approach, but that conversation in itself, it's like, what?
I dig it. I'm just saying that, you know, if Quinshawn Judkins doesn't make that boneheaded mistake and not give the ball to, you know, on the reverse, and they come back in this ball game, what would the talking heads be talking about Shedeur Sanders today? You know, they've been saying, oh my God, this kid willed them back. And admittedly, we're talking about 2 well below 500 teams. Okay, and they're both well below 500 for a reason, right? So if the Titans were going on the road and beat somebody, it would be a 3-win team. You know, but also you think about coming back in a game where we saw the Titans making mistakes towards the end that allowed them to open the door to come back. It wouldn't have been so surprising to see the Browns come back against a 1-win team and get a W, but yet and still, because we've seen this before, right? The Eagles had a convincing lead and loss. We saw the Chiefs have a convincing lead and loss. We saw the Cowboys have a convincing win. Well, actually, they were the ones that came back. But either way, you see what I'm saying? Better teams have had, you know, bad situations happen to them when they had a convincing lead. But I will say that it is a good point. The fact that they did have a 162-yard rusher, I wouldn't even need to make that many attempts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just because why would I be doing that? You know what I mean? Because obviously the flow, the momentum of the ball game is coming out of the backfield here. This dude is running like a scalded dog, man. This guy is getting after it. So keep feeding that thing until you can't feed him anymore. So they did right in what they were doing by game plan and execution.
Yeah, the Titans played the game they wanted. Cam Ward, to his credit, first game with 2 touchdown passes of his career. So he had that at least going for him as well. Okay, on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about how the Titans need to respond now after this win, because the last time they won a game this season, they didn't really do that. So what we want to see from them this week as the Titans head to San Francisco to face the Niners. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. All right, there's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. And what makes this even better is how Mint makes the switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings and real quality service. Switching to Mint lets you keep your same coverage for a lower price. So turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months plan required. That's $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees, initial plan term only. Less than 35 gigabytes, may slow when network is busy. Capable service required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. All right, fellas. So the last time the Titans won the game was at Arizona. They got a win, and things got ugly again after that when it came to the win-loss, at least results. So when it comes to responding to a victory now, when you're talking about making one game into 2 and stacking good days, what do you want to see from this team as they respond from victory now?
Well, let's just say this. The reality, first off, is that they're on the road at San Francisco. That's a tough place to play. That's a really tough place to play. Then you host. Now, I will go. Now, the Chiefs are right now, people shoveling dirt on them. But it's still Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Right.
The Saints, right. I'm not going to say Tyler Shuck's going to shuck us, but he played well enough to beat the first place Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the division, right? And then you finish on the road against a team that just beat you handily here and is actually playing for some playoff positioning. So it's not going to be an easy stretch down the road. But we saw two totally different situations. We saw through 3 quarters the Titans really minding their business, really, mainly playing mistake-free football. They didn't let penalties get them in bad situations. They didn't let big plays happen to them consistently to where they were like, just doing things until that 4th quarter. It seemed like where they just lost a little mental focus and they started letting these things happen. If they can play that same brand of football that we saw to start the game, where we saw them moving the football, converting first down, putting the onus on the other team to respond, that kind of situation, then this team has an opportunity to finish on a good note, right? But if they go back and revert to what we've seen in the past of them making mistakes, doing those silly little things that cost them field position, cost them, momentum in the ball game, and then they have to be forced into passing situations, which when you're in predictable situations like needing to get back into a ball game, it allows the defense to pin its ears back. That's not going to work for them. So really the control, the onus is on them to figure out which brand of football they want to finish the season with. Now I would expect, after 15 weeks that this team would start figuring some things out about itself, right? And just playing more consistently. So we would hope that just the history of what we've seen so far, they can learn from, because that's the cool thing about history. It's there to teach you, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. It's there to teach you. You learn from the bad things more than you do the good things. And this team's had a lot of bad going for it. So you'd hope that they learned a little bit more about their identity and how to move forward, not making those things that cost them ball games and their identity.
I think the Titans have one advantage here that gives them hope to play a decent game. The 49ers defensive line isn't very good. They've struggled this year. They have a lot of injuries up front. Shout out my guy, Zach Lyons, who does the radio show in Nashville. But he had a good tweet that the 49ers are last in sacks this year. And without blitzing, their pressure rate is really low. So they're not a team that really gets pressure with their front four, and they're a team that the scheme of the defense is designed to get pressure with the front four. That's how it's supposed to go. It's like the Browns, like Jim Schwartz. They have that four-man front, 4-3 concept base. They like to do wide alignments and stuff like that. So it'll be a similar look, I think, in some ways for the Titans offensive line, and the talent on the defensive line of the 49ers just isn't great right now because of their injuries. Their first round pick, Michael Williams, has been banged up. We know that Nick Bosa is out. The Bosa brothers, they're everywhere. We know that he's out. So it's like they've been so banged up front. They have not been very good. And if the Titans offensive line can stay in a rhythm like we saw them last week running the ball, I don't think that they're pass protection assignments are going to be as difficult dealing with Myles Garrett. There ain't no Myles Garrett this week. So, when you play on all Madden, dropping down to the second level feels way easy because you're not blocking Myles Garrett anymore. So I think there's an advantage there, but I do think that this is bad. They are going to revert back to what they did before for a lot of reasons, because this is not the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are a bad football team. That's why a bad football team against a bad football team was able to be the better bad football team. But the 49ers are a good football team, even the banged up version of the they're still 8-4, 9-4. So I'm like, yeah, like they're still great football team, and they're at home, and like this is just a different level of ball club. So I hope the Titans have some good moments. I think Jeffery Simmons can have some good moments, and they'll win some things, but like Kyle Shanahan's gonna make sure that his team wins this game. Like, I just don't – I think there's a big enough difference in the teams where they can make sure of that. So, I think this will be another, 31-13, 31-16, but I just hope there are some good moments in between for the Titans.
B-Hop, I wanted your opinion on this because Mike McCoy talked about – and Tyler, of course, you jump in as well. Like, Mike McCoy talked about it in the post-game press conference on Sunday – how, and I was there Thursday practice, how it went long. Like the veteran leaders wanted to keep extending practice. So for those who don't know, there's a watching period during practice for about half an hour. And then all the media goes up into a media room to do work or whatever until they say, hey, practice is over. You can come to the locker room. Well, they told us practice was ending early. We get down there and they add 10 more minutes on the clock. So we go back upstairs. They say practice is going to end again. We go back down. 8 more minutes gets added on the clock. And so practice kept getting extended and extended. And Mike McCoy said because the veteran leaders wanted to continue to practice, they continued to want to work. And he knew from then on it was going to be a better day this past Sunday. They ended up winning the game. From a player's perspective, B-Hop, when you have veteran leaders do that and take ownership like that in a practice that was originally going to be short, is that too much looking into, how much it galvanizes a team going into a week?
No, you set the table perfectly. I mean, I'm going to give you the obvious response to just all the things that you eloquently laid out there. Practice makes perfect. Is it going to be perfect? No, because there's no way in the world anybody can play zero mistake-free, all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, how you prepare during the week is a microcosm of what you see on Sunday. And these guys put forth the effort on Sunday. Matter of fact, Peter Skoronski said himself, he said, ain't no damn way that Myles Garrett is going to break that record on us. And I guarantee you they had that mentality going into the week of practice. And they took over because there was pride in their work. Maybe they thought that this was a winnable game for them. You know what I mean? I hope they have that same kind of confidence and feel going out to San Francisco.
And that's
but they were playing a 3-win team. And they're saying, hey, look, if we can beat somebody this year, it better be them. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, them taking control of practice set the tone for what we saw on Sunday, because they came out the game playing like that, didn't it? They came out of that game playing exactly like they took control during the week of practice and put as much effort in there as they felt they needed to put in it to win, and it reflected. So, yeah, whenever you have your leaders do, you just wish they'd have done that sooner, you know what I mean? So, yeah. But if they can have that mentality about the remaining schedule, I mean, what if this team won the next 4 games? You know what I mean? Of course, it would, for those people that are saying they need to tank and get that first pick, they'd be mad as hell. But at the end of the day, think of how they finished. Think of how you finished and how you feel about yourself. Now, I will say you're going to have a good pick next year anyway because you're well below 500. You're out of the draft. You're probably going to have a top 10 pick if anything, and you got 120 million in cap space, and you're going to have a new head coach coming in here. So there's a lot of newness that's going to be going around, a lot of opportunity for them to continue to get better and carry the momentum of finishing the 2025 season, although it sucked for 90% of it, on a good note. But they have to have that same kind of approach. So I'll be interested to find out from you, Tyler, or Julian. Did they have that same kind of situation where veterans were wanting to stick around the field and get that extra work in this week in practice like they did last week in practice? Did they set, like Tyler talked about earlier, a new standard of who they actually are? And it starts during the week.
Yeah, that was my worry, is that they were only doing it because they knew they had a winnable game on the schedule. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the Browns are coming. We better not lose this game. Like the Niners, that you might look at it like, do we need the extra work? Because it might not matter anyway. I hope that's not the mentality this week.
Whoa, it's getting late. Get in.
Brad said, I'll give you the obvious response. I'm going to give you the non-obvious response. Don't listen, NFLPA. They're not extending practice on a Thursday late in the season. I don't want the NFL Players Association hearing all this.
Doing, Julian?
Well,
yeah,
I will say
listen,
it was
would they
only
tell
about
them
it was only about like an hour or less than an hour or so.
Oh, yeah, welcome back now.
So they extended it to the original time is what I was.
Yeah, okay, all right. Hey, I was just worried. I'm like, hey, why? And I'm not blaming Julian. Why would they, why would Jeff tell him that, or whoever was saying that they, were extended practice? Don't give that to the media, guys. I'm worried. But no, I think it makes me wonder, this team must be a terrible practice team. They must have terrible practice, because we've heard guys complain, like Jeffery Simmons earlier in the year said, we had our worst practice of the season, blah, blah, blah. And then a couple of weeks ago when we talked about the Arden Key thing, where they're like, man, we need new leadership, and Jeffery Simmons saying the next coach got to be a leader, and blah, blah, blah. Like, to me, I'm like, God, this must be the worst practice team in the history of the NFL, because they have one good practice, and they're like, yeah, we had one good practice. We practiced the whole Thursday, and guess what? We won the game. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, I'm connecting these dots. You guys must just not work hard in practice. I don't know. That's my theory right now. But either way, I think that they're in a tough spot with San Francisco. So we could say, they should respond to victory. Hopefully they set the new standard. I think they just played another bad team like them and were able to get the win. San Francisco might be a different beast.
Yeah, that certainly will be a tough game on Sunday up in the Bay Area. Okay, wanted to keep your questions and comments coming. The comment section has actually been flooded with a bunch of quarterback debates between Cam and Shador and all of that stuff.
Always.
We want to do your best to answer some of the questions that you may have about the Titans or the game coming up. So make sure to keep those coming in. If you're live with us on the chat on YouTube, we're going to talk about it all on the other side of the break. Stay with us. All right, fellas. So while we wait to get some more questions here, we wanted to talk about the game this upcoming weekend. What would be a successful performance on Sunday? We talked about the slim chance to victory, but what would be a successful performance where you're going away, you're saying, you know what, I feel even better about this Titans team moving forward for the last few weeks of the season?
Tyler, what game was that they played not that long ago where it was a loss, but they played a lot better?
Seattle.
Yeah.
So,
or you could say Houston, but Seattle was the one.
Look, a win above all else, that's what we want to see, right? That's what everybody wants to see. We want to see just Titans win because we want to make them feel good. As a matter of fact, the show even feels better today discussing a win. It just does.
Different
right?
energy. Yeah.
Right. Different energy. But I will say, if they don't go out to the Bay and win, how they play makes a difference to me.
Mm-hmm.
If you go out there and you get slapped down like against Jacksonville, where they put up 25 points, you score a field goal in the first half and your offense just disappears. Then that just shows that they weren't competitive, that somehow last week was a fluke, that they pulled it out, blah, blah, blah. But if they take it down to the wire, a 9-win team, a team that's going into the playoffs, right, or at least fighting for its position amongst a very competitive NFC situation, and you go on the road and you play lights out and you fall maybe a field goal or a point short, I'm going to be like, man, the Titans really took the momentum from that garbage win up in Cleveland, and they feel better about themselves, and I'll take that. So it's really about how competitive they actually are, for me, is what I want to see. Are they going to show up and show out, or are they going to get shooked?
This is the time of the year. Think about their next two games. They play San Francisco, and then they play Kansas City. Like, those are tough games. And Jacksonville, the Titans could potentially play spoiler to Jacksonville in the last week of the season if they're in it with the Texans, or if, old man Phillip Rivers actually gets the chance with the Colts and keeps them alive. You know what I mean? Like, that could be a big divisional game for the standings for Jacksonville, and the Titans could play spoiler in that. Like, this is the time where they build the momentum for next year. This is like we saw it with like the Panthers. Remember the Panthers at the end of last season? They were terrible. They went 5-12. They got a top 10 pick, but they played real tight with Kansas City. They lost by a field goal late at the very end of the game. They played real tight with Philadelphia and lost by a field goal at the very end of the game. And then this year, the Panthers aren't going to make the playoffs most likely, but they're, 7-6 or whatever. They're a more competitive team. You build momentum at the end of the season with your young players who are going to step into bigger roles next season after the offseason by having these games. And I don't expect the Titans to win, just like the Panthers didn't beat those teams. You know what I mean? Those are great teams that went to the playoffs. And the Chiefs probably aren't going to go to the playoffs. I mean, that is one of the spiciest storylines in the NFL at large right now, is whether the Chiefs are actually dead or not. But regardless, I don't expect the Titans to win these games, but you're right, playing well against them, having good moments, feeling like, hey, we went toe-to-toe with some of the better teams and some of the bigger name players. I don't care if the Chiefs make the playoffs or not. You go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and you almost beat the Chiefs, and when you're a bad team, that does feel good. That is a moral victory. It exists. That matters. When you go home at night, you're like, well, damn, we played them tight. Next year we're coming for them. Like that feeling of, hey, we're on our way. We can get these guys eventually. We played them tight now, Like the Titans do need that feeling going into the season. So I'd like to see them play tight against Kansas City and San Francisco, maybe beat Jacksonville and prevent them from winning the division in the final game of the season, stuff like that. Like at this point, I think that's more important to kind of full circle the episode where we started. I think that stuff is more important realistically right now for this team than the draft pick.
You know what, real quick, I think that how they played this weekend, Tyler, Julian, will set the tone for how they finish the season.
Yes.
Because if they feel that, hey, man, first off, if they beat the Niners on the road, I expect them honestly to win out, being honest. Because if you think about it, KC's down, New Orleans sucks, and Jacksonville's a personal game. It's a divisional game.
Sure.
And you can screw their season over royally. And if that's not motivation enough after you've won the three previous, then I don't know what is, right?
And after they stomped you 25-3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
got chippy.
If they go up there and play competitive, they can do it. But if they go up there and just fall back into what we've seen for most of the season, then I don't expect them to be that competitive down the stretch. But this game in San Francisco will set the tone for everything else that we'll see through the remaining 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of comments right now and of course, of the Cam Shador debate, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, but GMPTV24 has a good point right here. Shador has a better supporting cast. I want to see Cam with his number one receivers. Of course, no Calvin Ridley, but Shador has Jerry Jeudy, Harold Fannin. He had David Njoku, Judkins back there. Yeah, so it's kind of like he played the game that he wanted to play, and Cam played the game that they wanted to play.
Yeah. But why are they only won 3 games?
Stefanski.
Why have they only won 3 games? You got all these
their
stars.
Offensive line is bad.
So at the end of the day, I mean, it seems like and
their quarterback play has been bad, Brad. Their quarterbacks have been terrible.
Right. Put it this way, it seems like the problems that they have, we have. At least inconsistency. If you don't want to just say they're out and out bad, we've seen the Titans offensive line play well enough, but then we've also seen them just be a reason why a team's struggling. You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, while Shador might have these great targets and, Quinshon Judkins is not no slouch, you know what I mean? Why have they only won 3 games? You know what I mean? So it's not like, what's the excuse there? So I don't know.
Somebody did in the comments, I think it was Micah Henderson said that stats don't tell the whole story either, and that was just proof of the result.
Well, can I just say this? Stats don't tell the whole story. And I said that earlier, like the game flow. But even without that discrepancy in stats, Shador just played better than Cam. Can we just say it? Can people just accept it? Like, there is such a rush to defend Cam every single way. And I'm fine with adding context about how bad the situation is around Cam and how he's grown and the good plays that he does make. But forget the stats, forget the supporting cast, just a quarterback throwing the football. Shador played better than Cam. He played better. Add all the context you want. My answer is they're going to be played better. That's just the reality that people need to accept. And the problem is when you say one thing, I could say, man, it rained today really, really bad. And the internet would say, oh, so you think it's going to flood? No, I just said it rained bad today. Like Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders played better than Cam today. It doesn't mean Cam's a bust. It doesn't mean Shedeur is better forever like everybody tries to act like. Like I can't make you can't make a single comment about a moment and analyze a single moment in time without people subscribing long-term implications to everything you're saying. So I think that's the reality, but it's also fair to say Jerry Jeudy is significantly better than the best wide receiver on the Titans. David Njoku and Harold Fannin are better weapons than what the Titans have, period. And Quinshon Judkins, all four of those guys are better than any skill position player on the Titans. All four of them. Now, the Titans' offensive line is better than the Cleveland Browns offensive line. I know that's hard for Titans fans to hear, but it's absolutely the truth. But what counteracted that is we're going up against Myles Garrett. We can't even run a normal offense. We got to run 11 dropbacks and bootlegs and screens and run the ball and all this different stuff. So it's like the one advantage the Titans did have was counteracted by maybe the best pass rusher of all time on offense. But I think it's fair to say that Shedeur does have some better stuff around. I would hire Kevin Stefanski as the head coach of the Titans. I hope he gets fired. I want him fired. I think he is a good head coach. I really do. I blame Andrew Berry for the Browns' problems with their offensive line talent falling apart and trading for Deshaun Watson and gutting their team. So it's fair to say that he has better weapons on offense, a better coaching staff on offense, all of that. But Cam has a better O-line, and Shedeur still just played better. It's just what it is. And what we really need down the stretch is we need Cam Ward to play better. And that goes back to our conversation about him being angry afterwards. Good, because if the Titans do win games down the stretch and Cam played the way that he played against the Browns, it will not feel satisfying, and it will not feel like it is what's best for the Titans going forward. So, he needs to play better than he did.
Well, I know one thing Shedeur didn't do. He didn't throw a defender that was tackling him to the ground.
Woo! I was going to end with that. What do you guys think of that?
Get off me, boy.
I'm sorry, man. If you're a Titans fan and you don't get flashbacks seeing him throw guys off of him like that, I'm like, ooh, God, man, killing
Trust me. When I saw that play right there, I said, is that 9? Is that 9?
I know, man.
Ugh, get off me, boy.
That clip is gonna be used in promos, Titans promos for years to come. They're like,
hopefully
yes,
for
we
all
have
eternity,
something,
baby.
We have something for the hype video for the new stadium.
It looks like one of those leopards trying to bring down an antelope or something, and he doesn't have a good grip. And he just, and the guy just runs. That's what it looked like.
Right. Oh man, it was great.
All right. Do we have any final thoughts before we call it a show here before the Titans take on the Niners this weekend?
Just give credit where credit is due. They played the type of game that allows you to win. They did it. They came back on that flight, giddy, I'm sure, just feeling better about themselves. I just hope that they can take this momentum from a win that they needed to have and have a salvageable season. Salvageable meaning if you can ruin some people's playoff hopes, great. If you can win against some well above 500 playoff caliber teams, great. Let's just see what they do with it.
Yeah, they could end the Chiefs' playoff hopes mathematically. There's a chance that that's a possibility. They could, knock the Jags out potentially, depending on if they lose a couple of games here. They do have a way to make their season valuable at the end. I just want to say, seeing Kevin Winston ball out the way that he did, and Marcus Harris is a real answer in the slot and forces that fumble at the end, which ended up being really important. Gunnar Helm is good. Gunnar Helm's good. We all see it, right? Gunnar Helm's good. They don't throw him the ball enough. The offense is bad, but that guy's good. He's going to be a good player. Both the rookie wide receivers catch touchdown passes. Like I said, both the important guys, building blocks on the offensive line, played well. Jeffery Simmons is an animal. Mike Borgonzi had a good draft class. Mike Borgonzi might be able to pick some players. And that goes back to, like I said, Julian, the Titans need to pick better, not just get better picks. They just need to pick better. The reason the roster is so bad is because they missed on so many picks. And with Mike Borgonzi's first draft, I think that regardless of where the Titans draft pick falls, we should have a lot of faith that, hey, the guys he already picked are going to help turn this thing around. The guys that he will pick are going to help turn this thing around. And you either are believing in wins or hope. And I guess I feel hopeful that the Titans are on their way back to being a decent football team. Just let Mike Borgonzi work and let him do his thing.
Ending the episode. Yeah. What was that, B-Hop?
I said he did pick some players. I mean,
yeah.
There's no, this year's rookies, good God, man, they're balling. For the most part.
Nobody's going to be 100% in the draft. The draft is not 100% science. Right. Like if you have 9 picks and you get 4 starters, you balled out in a draft class. Like that's the way that it works. So we got to keep expectations realistic. But I think Borgonzi's good, man.
Yeah. Ending the episode with a little bit of hope for the Titans and their fan base here. Kickoff against the Niners, 3:25 Central Time in San Francisco. We'll see if the Titans can make it competitive. For now, I'm Julian Minnesone. That's Tyler Rowland and Brad Hopkins. We'll see you guys on game day.